So what's the deal with this ozone layer thing? I keep hearing about it, but I'm not really sure what it is or why it matters. Well, way back in the 19th century, scientists figured out that the Earth had a kind of invisible shield in the sky that protected all life on the planet from being blasted apart by the sun. See, the sun beams all kinds of crazy radiation towards us, including ultraviolet rays, which are super high energy and can mess with stuff at a molecular level. Back then, people didn't know exactly what these mysterious rays did, but they did notice that they could make certain molecules, like oxygen, absorb energy and transform into something else. Eventually, scientists figured out that this transformation turned ordinary oxygen molecules into a special form of oxygen called ozone, hence the name ozone layer. And they discovered that this whole process actually created a protective shield that absorbed most of the sun's harmful UV rays before they reached the ground. So thanks to this shield, life on Earth could flourish without being constantly bombarded by deadly solar radiation. But then, in the 1980s, scientists made a horrifying discovery. The ozone layer was getting thinner and thinner, especially over Antarctica. And if this trend continued, the entire ozone shield could eventually become so compromised that life on Earth, as we know it, would cease to exist. And the worst part was that we knew exactly what was causing the ozone layer to break down human activity. Specifically, scientists identified a group of chemicals called CFCs as the main culprits. These chemicals were widely used in things like refrigerators, air conditioners, and hairsprays, and they were basically indestructible. Once released into the atmosphere, they could float around for years, even decades, eventually reaching the stratosphere where the sun's UV rays could break them apart. And that's when the real damage started, because as these molecules broke apart, they unleashed tiny chlorine atoms that went on a turbocharged ozone-destroying rampage. Each chlorine atom could go on to destroy thousands of ozone molecules, weakening the ozone shield and letting more harmful UV rays through. To make matters worse, the damage was cumulative. Since ozone molecules absorb UV rays to transform into their excited oxygen counterparts, breaking apart the ozone also prevented those molecules from returning to their original state, so the ozone layer couldn't replenish itself. And to top it all off, the Antarctic ozone hole was particularly alarming because of how quickly it was growing. By the late 1990s, it had expanded to cover an area twice the size of the United States. And to say that scientists were concerned would be a bit of an understatement. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn. Unlike many other environmental disasters, the international community didn't just sit around and do nothing. In 1987, every single country on Earth signed a treaty called the Montreal Protocol to get rid of CFCs once and for all. And just like that, the race was on to find substitutes for CFCs in everything from refrigerators to hairsprays. Now, believe it or not, the world actually pulled it off. Within just a few years, CFC production went from around 500,000 tons per year to virtually zero. And thanks to the efforts of so many countries, the ozone layer has been slowly but surely recovering ever since. Today, scientists predict that if things continue on their current trajectory, the ozone layer will return to its thick glory days by the year 2075. So there you have it, a story of humanity coming together to save ourselves from a self-inflicted disaster. It may not be the sexiest story out there, but it is one of the most important lessons we'll ever learn. Because here's the thing, while CFCs and the ozone layer might seem like ancient history, the problem of dangerous chemicals impacting our world is far from over. And in fact, it's only getting worse. Take PFAS, for example, a group of chemicals that are showing up in everything from drinking water to non-stick pans. Or how about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? A massive collection of plastic and other debris floating in the ocean that's now 5 times larger than Texas. Yeah, it's a pretty big mess. But here's the silver lining. Just like with the ozone layer, we already know what's causing these problems, and we have the power to stop them. All it's gonna take is a little bit of awareness, a lot of determination, and a whole lot of unity. So let's go out there and save the world, because we don't have a planet B, but we do have a shot at planet A. So next time you hear someone say the good old days were better, just break your phone and tell them to listen to this episode.